this is Cyndee. I'm the Tireless Tangler, and you've arrived at day 56 of the 100 Days of Zentangle Project 2020. Thank you all so much for being with me today. Our pattern today is going to be Pathway. It is by Vandana Krishna. She is a CZT, and it looks like this. It's a grid pattern, but it's also a fragment. You can do these little elements singly, and there are many different ways you can set these up. She has some really fun ways to change this up on Tangle Patterns if you want to look it up. Okay, so the biggest deal about this isn't really the drawing, it's what you decide to do after it's drawn, okay? This is a square based on a square grid. Yes, I am trying to keep my promise to all of you gridders out there. We're going to fit a few in. If I can find some that won't just absolutely kill me, that would help. Before we do this, let's step this out. All right, now I'm going to go ahead on this bijou tile and put a four square grid on here, mostly so it won't take too long. And you can draw this grid in pen or pencil. I just happen to have a pencil in my hand, so it doesn't really matter. All right, then on this one I'm going to use my 01. And I will tell you now that I am not planning on doing much blacking, even though, inking, I should say, even though the inking sets this off to a beautiful, in a beautiful way and makes it really dynamic. I just don't have the patience for it. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind, but I doubt it. Okay, so in each square, here is your basic, let's use this nice square. Here is your basic step out. All right, so the first step is to gently round the corners, maybe not quite so gentle, of your square, sort of like this. Now if you're working in a grid, of course you're going to try to make all of those match. Oops. Okay. And pretty soon you have all of your corners rounded off. Now, these don't have to be perfect. However, your result is directly related to how much care you put into this, okay? The next step on the step out is to, in the center, draw a small orb. And then in each one, let me zoom in here a lot. And then in each one, aura the orb. And I encourage you to really take your time when you're drawing these circular type orbish things. Pay attention to where you start and stop so you don't get any of those sloppy ones. There you go. I did a fairly good job here. All right, now on the step out, she has you put sort of a little ladybug shape like in Crescent Moon in each one of these gaps. My suggestion to you is to not make these too rounded. In other words, make them more like partial ovals than half circles, if that helps you. So, because what we're going to do is we're going to connect these here. And what these are going to want to do is go like this, and if we make them too circular, then they don't get a pleasing flow, if that helps. Probably doesn't. And then we want to match them, of course, whatever we do on each side. So I'm going to, in my mind, do them like this, with the mind for connecting up. All right. Then we're going to draw an aura line, and not a particularly careful one. All the way around. That was really particularly not particular. Now, when she does this, at least from my observation of her step out, when she does this, I don't know. I can't always tell if there is actual connection. I guess if you draw the grid, then that all works out. Either way, you can do it either way. So now for me, I'm going to go around and hook up all of my curved edges, trying to do a neat job. Oops. Well, and see, this is some place where I would want to fill then. If you're going to fill the edge in black, you can really clean up a lot of stuff. And if you don't have a nice curve here, then you can always fix that up with ink. Yeah, so once you get to this point, you're going to hook up. Hook up your edges. And then draw your inner line, your inner aura line. And the more careful you are, the better it will look, unlike my example here. Okay? Now, at this point, let's finish this one up too, connecting all the lines. And you can see why making these in an ovally way is much easier for connecting lines. If you do it straight up and down, then you tend to have a sharp edge here, like in this example, and less of a sort of a flow. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to anybody but me. All right, and then you're just going to carefully aura the inside. Now, this is one reason I struggle with grid patterns, is because I can never get them to set up correctly. And it seems like I've always got a big liney mess everywhere. Excuse me. I'm not going to take time to black all of this or any of that, but let's talk about the options. You can black the outside. You can leave it blank. Okay? You can black the outer edge, and maybe this. And then she has an example of that on Tangle Patterns. You can do diagonal hatch thing through here, and that looks fairly dynamic. That was one of my favorite examples she had. Something like that. You can, and then, you know, you could hatch the center. That would be fairly dynamic. Anything you want to do that is going to cause some visual separation from each of these elements is going to work, okay? You could even, if I might be so bold as to go out on my own and not use something that's not in the example, but you could even add curved lines in here and really give some 3D dimension. I actually like that. I think I'll use that on the tile. And that would be very dynamic, I think, once you get the shading done and really lift that up out off of the page or the tile. Okay, so I don't hate that idea. I think I said you could black this and the inner ring. You could do none of those and leave this blank and do something else. You could add color and do alternating colors. Really, anything you would like to do with this is awesome, okay? And so let your creativity guide you. That's one of the reasons I chose this. Number one, it's not too horrible to draw. And I like the visual interest. And when I wondered about the pathway thing, I didn't quite get the article all the way read on Tangle Patterns, but I look at this and I think, you know, I see the path. I see the path there. And I like that analogy. So, all right, let's start our tile. Let's back out. So I considered making this challenging for me, and I've decided not to. I am screaming inside about the challenge. I don't want to be challenged today. So I'm going to opt for some Zen, hopefully. I'm going to start with my penciled dot in each corner, and while I do that, I'm going to take some deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Make sure those are nice belly breaths. All right, so now I'm going to, because we're working with a square grid, I'm going to keep this fairly straight. I think I'm going to do a version of this around the border, and then I'm not sure. We'll see how much room that takes up. I think I'll have room for something in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aura this penciled line on the inside. And remembering what I'm going to do here, not make it too small. Maybe not get smaller. And then now this can be wonky. You don't have to make this perfectly square, and of course it's not going to be either way. I think what I'll do in this middle is just do one big element and have fun with that. So I think I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to do this. By the way, this is, if you're doing grid patterns and you're going to do them around the edge as a border, this is a good way to help yourself with that. And then put in your squares. Like that. I'm a little bit afraid right now. All of you grid lovers, this is for you. This is watching Cyndee go crazy. Let's see what we can do about that. Well, apparently we're going to start by ignoring our penciled line. I guess if I had thought this through better, I would have just penciled or inked this to begin with, huh? I didn't need all that drawing. All right, hopefully this camera angle is going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this in, opting, I hope, for some straighter lines. Apparently not. That's all right. If nothing else, it'll be an adventure. Well, I was hoping to get that straighter, but all right, it'll be fun, won't it? Okay, so I think to begin with, I'm going to square some stuff up and hope that I don't end up with something weird and misshapen. Hey, not exactly square, but it might work. And weird and misshapen it is. So I have an option here to make 2 small ones or 1 larger one, and I'm just going to leave it large. I did the small on this section, so let's see. That's better. None of those are going to match, but it's all right. It's all right. Okay, close enough. So this is what I'm going to use today for this. In the middle here, I'm going to start, because that's going to be the part that's the most fun, because I'll have enough room to embellish up here. So I'm going to start by adding my little corner curve, rounding my corner. Not sharply, just gently. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and do my sides. And while I'm here, I'm just going to connect them. And I actually like that the best. So forgive me. I am going off the rules. And I think I will like my results a little bit better. And since I'm not trying to match this up on all the sides, I think that'll be fine. Okay, so I'm going to put my little orbs in the center, and then aura. And you could do this step first. I don't think it really matters. Then this time I'm really going to use a careful aura around the edges, trying to match the curves of the line next to it. An aura is a parallel line, and so we should be, unlike my example, running parallel to the outside. And again, the more consistent you are with this, the more your results will please you, I would imagine. Okay? So I can tell here I've got my center off center. And my curves are not consistent, but I'm okay with that today. I'm going to wait, I think, until I get all of the ink in, and then I'll decide how I'm going to finish this off. Okay? So, let's get started. Let's see if I can do it. I think I'll leave my outer edges till last, and I think I'm going to start, well, let me just be a good example. Round my 4 corners. carefully aura the inside. Alright, so not a bad start. Alright, let's keep going. I should not do this. But it works. The only thing in these grid patterns you really have to worry about is how it matches up with the one next to it. And other than that, what you do inside of it is really up to you. So regarding yesterday's pattern, Me Too, or 2 days ago's pattern, Me Too, after I did the video with my little cheat thing at the beginning, I saw on Tangle Patterns that Rick Roberts had done his own version of working on that step out to make it more friendly as far as the setup of the rice shapes, and his version is better than mine, I think. So I should probably tell you guys that there's a better explanation than mine, I think. It might help you, it might not. It really depends on the individual person, I think, what type of a solution will work best for that pattern. And it can be difficult, but once you get the setup, then it's easier. It gets easier anyway. That wasn't very good. And so you can see now, while I'm drawing my curved edges around, I am incorporating into that the little open C shapes here without making them a separate step. I'm sort of incorporating them into the corner rounding part. The one thing I did not do was try this in a wonky grid. I think that might be too much for me. Although I'm not going to tell you I didn't want to, because I did. And I'm finding that even though these squares aren't all squares, if you will, it's still working out okay. Whether they're skinny or fat or whatever, it's still working out okay. All right. So I'm just going to continue. I think you will find as you draw this from one to the next that you will adjust the way that you draw it continually until you find a way that brings your own Zen. Whichever version of orders, whichever order that you want to put this down in, however you want to handle the sides, I think the more you draw it, the more comfortable you will become. The only reason I don't like doing that all the way around without stopping is because I tend to get my little bumps in the wrong places. So I have no doubt you guys are going to find the way that's best for you. Whoa. That was a crazy aura. Crazy aura. It was escaping. Simba's got gurgly belly again today. I can't decide if that's because he ate a bunch of grass and he's got a upset belly, or if he ate something else that he wasn't supposed to and he's sick, or what. You know, when your dog is a garbage disposal, it's hard to know. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm sort of zenning out here. It's funny to me that as someone who really likes the grid base or likes the organic patterns, that I get all anxious and afraid when I do grid patterns. And the first thing I want to do with them is get creative. And I think it's because I feel like if I don't get the exact same results as, you know, whomever, that I'm not doing a good enough job. And somehow when you do organic patterns where you can't do it wrong because it's all intuitive, I guess that's free for me. But I can understand the people that need structure in their patterns. I mean, that is the whole point, is that you have a structured pattern so that you don't have to wonder what to draw. What do I do next? And that's a big artistic block for a lot of people, myself most definitely included. I believe that the reason that I was not able to be an artist before was my own, well, part of it was confidence. But part of my blocks were things like, where do I start? What do I draw? And my hang-ups were things like, it doesn't look right. You know, it's not exactly right. And that was my perfectionist in me. And by doing things the way they do, the Zentangle method has freed me from my inhibitions. It wasn't that I couldn't mimic art before, because I could do a fairly good job, but I didn't, it wasn't something that I was always grabbing a pen for, because I didn't have the freedom. You know, I needed the structure of somebody telling me what to draw, how to do it. And this, you know, removed those blocks for me. This art form removed those blocks for me. And that was a big deal. You know, where to start? You put 4 dots on the corners. You know, what do I draw? Well, you divide your tile up into sections, you pick a pattern, and you go. Using a string is a big part of that. Knowing what to draw, where to start. All of these things were blocks for me. And the non-representational thing is perfect, because if I'm not drawing a tree, a flower, a person, then the likelihood of me messing it up is much less. Just got a few more. This is really pretty easy to do. I just want to apologize to Vandana for the mess I have made out of this. But I'm very zenful, and that's what I care about. May not be the best example, but I'm zened. I'm in a bit of a rush to get finished, but it's going to be okay. Okay, 2 more. I would much rather do this with 1 stroke because I get fewer little pen marks everywhere. Between Cyndee's belly and mine, we are hearing all kinds of gurgling going on today. Oops. All right, so here's where we're at. So I think for this center portion, I'm going to do my little curved line on this inner, on this little aura section here. I'm going to try to be careful as I put them in, try to keep them consistent in size, which is always difficult. Try to be aware of when I put my pen down, taking my time, and lifting it off, taking my time. For me, that can be a big deal with how clean my lines are. Now, if you're trying something like this, you don't want to worry about, all you want to worry about is keeping these little C strokes consistent, the size and the shape of them consistent. Then all you have to do is follow the curves of these little auras. And don't worry about anything else. Just keep your C shapes consistent, the curve consistent. Take your time setting your pen down and lifting it up. Don't get in a hurry. And if you overshoot it some, like I do, or if you make a mess somehow, don't worry about it. Look how much better I am at these when I am pushing out with my pen. Okay, so I've got this. Now the other thing I want to do is match this and do it in here. So I'm going to do the same thing. Same C stroke. Okay. Now, I need to decide what I'm going to do in between. And I know I said I didn't want a black, and I really don't. But that said, I have a whole lot of stuff going on in between my lines and in here between these sections. And so blacking would solve some of my issues here. So I think I'm going to grab my 08, because I think even this much is too much for my pen, and I'm afraid I'm going to run out of ink. And we don't. So this is an older 08, and I'm not sure exactly how this is going to be. I might get some out, but if you'll notice, I have completely worn the edges on some of the sides off of this, and so I'm going to have to use it straight up and down. See, if I do it this way, no, straight up and down, I still have ink. So let's see how far this gets us. So the places I want to do this are going to be, for now, I'm going to start with the outer edges of this. So let's start right here. See if I can carefully So what I think, instead of leaving this straight on all, or straight-ish, on all the sides, I think I'm going to make some little bumps that sort of follow the curves of these. Like this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about it, but I'm just going to make the edge a little more dynamic, maybe a little more interesting. And by the way, I know that when I finish these that you can see a lot of spots and things that I have missed. It's because I can't really see it well. But then after we're done, then I go through and take my inking pen and try to do a more careful job. Oh yeah, I like that. I like the way that looks. So I'm going to have to be busting open my savings and getting some new pens, I think. I need a larger pack of PNs for sure. Need a whole nother pack of Jelly Roll 10s because for some reason I cannot find them. I keep buying more and they keep getting up and leaving. Why is that, do you think? I much like this border much better. But you know, straight lines are your things, maybe you don't. And that's fine. The great thing about art is you can do whatever the heck you want, and nobody can tell you any different. This ends up being pretty easy to do. And I can always put an aura line around this. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. That continues to be the question, apparently. I think the true question is whether you're going to live till tomorrow, buddy. That's what I said. Does somebody want a little 10-year-old with a smart mouth and a cute face? Because I'm looking to unload one. Just kidding, Mari. One of the things you need to learn about making jokes and funny statements is to not push them too hard, otherwise you lose the effect and they go from fun to annoying. Or do they? I've said it before, I'll say it again, I am too old for a 10-year-old. That's okay though, he's stuck with me. Okay, I'm getting excited about this. This is looking good. Good. So as far as the rest of this goes, I don't know. I'm going to black the inside of this. The middle of that is going to get some jelly roll action. I think I'll black the middles of all of these. Trying to keep that round is sometimes a challenge. Now, if you're going to use color on this or wet media, make sure if you've done this much blacking that you allow it to dry first. I'd give it a good 10 minutes. probably won't take that long. But remember that this is tough on the tooth of the paper, and we do not want to scrub across this inked stuff too quickly. Oh, you know what that means. Jelly roll points all the way around. All right. So, but you can shade if you're going to do, if you did something like what I did with these curved lines. A way to make this very dynamic and a really effective thing is to shade one side. The same side all the way around, unless you are going to be light sourcing it, in which case you'll have to figure out where to switch, because I'm not doing that. Well, I didn't quite get that in the right place, did I? Just to be clear, I am trying to shade on the side of the aura here, not on the flat side, if that makes any sense at all. That said, I don't want to shade up too far because I want the top of this to be highlighted. So just go easy on your graphite if you're going to do something like this. And of course you can do this whether or not you've got these little C shapes running along there. Those shapes just enhance the idea that this is rounded. So I'm going to take my teeny weeny thin little paper stump here and just blend some of this up. Trying not to obscure the whole thing in graphite. And I may have to get my Tombow that tiny eraser out. Mr. Mono Zero, as I call him. So I'll probably do something like that, and I probably maybe might do these little C shapes all the way around here. I don't know, but I know that we have gone really long on this video because these types of patterns are work intensive, and that's okay. So I'm going to let you guys figure out what you're going to do with yours while I decide how I'm going to embellish mine. Now, I used a gray tile today, so I know that I can use my white charcoal pencil to great effect here. I also can use my white jelly roll to great effect. So expect both of those to put in appearance on my finished tile. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow for day, oh my goodness, day 56. Day 57. Holy cow. We are going crazy here. I look forward to seeing your art on Instagram. I've really been enjoying that, even though I haven't had time to comment. I have looked and enjoyed very much. Thank you guys for sharing your art with me. Don't forget, if you don't want to get Instagram and you want to share your art with me through email, you may have to wait a while for a response on those, but if you would like to, you can email me at thetirelesstangler@gmail.com. And on Instagram, I am at thetirelesstangler. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.